Hey guys, welcome to the Whole Lotta Jesus podcast. This is a podcast where we talk all about testimonies. I'm your host, Carly Rains. And so this month, it's May. And during this month, we have Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers listening. We are doing a vlog and podcast series called Dear Mama. And so and I'm sorry if you hear our babies in the background because we're doing this with them awake. So I don't know if y'all can hear Briley, but she might be squealing, or trying to talk. But yeah, so we're doing a podcast series, a podcast and vlog series, and I say both of them because some of the content that we will be doing, you will only be able to see it on YouTube, and then but a lot of it or slash all of it, the audio part will be available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Um, but we're kind of going back and forth. So if you be sure to check out our YouTube channel because that will have everything on there. Whereas on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, we're just gonna have the interviews and the audio recordings. We won't have the vlogs actually posted on there. Um, and this is take two for our podcast recording. Briley. This is take two because yesterday we scheduled to record and a huge storm came through East Texas, and so we lost service and Carly was in the middle of talking and it froze and didn't work. But
Yeah.
so Carly and I, she's been a guest on the podcast before a couple times, and our lives like parallel, y'all. Like it's kind of weird because we met at college. We were both freshmen. We both ran. We were teammates. We have the same names. We both have curly hair. We're both writers. She's writing a book. I'm writing a book. What else, Carly? We got married around the same time. And then we both had baby girls like a few months but apart. So I just feel like our lives are just so paralleled. Um, I don't know if I missed anything of what else was. Oh, actually, Caleb, your husband is younger than you.
Yeah.
And Kristen, my husband, is younger than me, so we both married younger guys. I'm trying to think what else. There's just been a lot of like paralleled. So, but today we're going to talk about kind of what it's like being a new mom and the pressure of being a new mom. So Carly, she stays at home, but her and her husband are missionaries for Teen Missions International. And so she kind of has this cool scenario where she stays at home, but then I think this summer y'all are gonna go overseas and actually like do mission work and stuff. So we can talk about that a little later as we get into like motherhood and stuff and you preparing to actually take your baby overseas and the anticipation of that. But I wanted to start off and kind of talk about, to you, like what does a mom, a good mother mean to you? Did you have that good example growing up and like just how do you see being a mom and how did that frame how you wanted to be as a mom?
So for me, I feel like a good mom is someone who balances being a mom to their children, being a wife, but also finding time for themselves. So finding that good balance and finding that balance between being someone who your kids can go to, who they can trust, who they can go to and talk to and whatnot, but also being their parent, not being their best friend. Because your role as a mom is to be there, be their guidance, but also you need to set boundaries for your kids. So that's how I feel like a good mom is. And that's kind of what I plan to strive for as baby Esther grows up.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that definition, especially the like you want your kids to trust you and go to you, but you also want to set clear boundaries of we're not on the same level. I am your parent. I'm kind of in a higher tier than you, whereas with your friends, you're kind of on the same level and tier. And that's one thing that I saw in high school was I would have like these classmates or these friends, people. And I felt like, especially as girls, I just felt like, their mom was like a friend to them and they were just cool. And I remember going to my mom and being like, why can't why can't we be friends? And, all my other classmates, they're friends with their moms and all this stuff. And my mom answered politely, but, very like, she put her foot down. And she basically said, I'm your mom first. And so when you're older, and now, me and my mom have more of a friendship relationship. She's not really mothering me like she did when I lived at home. It's a little different. The relationship changes, but at the time she said, I'm your mom first, and then later I can be your friend. And so that's really good, Carly. I just think it sets like the family dynamic up for success. I think as children, like I look back and if my mom hadn't have said that, if she had said, "Okay, like let's be more friends," I think I would have dishonored her a lot more than I mean, I dishonored my parents. I was, we're all rebellious in our own fashions, but I think I really would have like overstepped her and her role as a mom and not have honored or respected that role. And so I just really loved that answer. So one of the crazy things that I want Carly to explain is her birth. One thing that we did not parallel on was how we got our babies into this world and out of our wombs. Personally, for me, I kind of want us to each go into our birthing experience and how, were we nervous about motherhood? Or were we so excited? And I don't know if you want to go first. I mean, it doesn't matter. We can go back and forth. Um, but yeah, we just had very different birthing experiences, and Carly's is a little crazy in my eyes. Your birthing experience is a little crazy because you didn't even realize like you were in labor, which I think is wild because which I was induced, so it might be a little different, but like when I was at a two, I was like, I need the epidural now. Like I am like hurting so bad. And so for you to not even know that you're in active labor and like it's happening and it's coming, I think is just crazy. So do you want to go ahead and kind of explain like labor and then birth and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, I can go into that. So I know like leading up to going into labor, I'm an anxious person to begin with. So definitely like the anxiety was starting to build. But like I gave birth on a Saturday, February 1st. So like previous Monday, I had a doctor's appointment and I was measuring like 2 to 3 centimeters already. So I was still like a little bit dilated.
But
And my due date
sorry,
was
just to clarify, your water had not broke yet. No.
no, my water wasn't broken. It was one of those, it was a normal appointment and they were just checking to see if I had started dilating because that was the week of my due date. I was due January 30th. So my water hadn't broken and they were pretty much like, it doesn't tell us anything. It just means your body's preparing.
Yeah.
And so Friday, January 31st, about 10:30 at night, my water broke. I did not know my water broke. I had that sensation, and if you've had your water naturally break, if you're listening to this, you understand it's like you feel like you peed yourself, but when you're 9 months pregnant, it's not out of the realm
Yeah.
to accidentally pee yourself. And then like they tell you, well, if you lay down, you stand back up, and you feel that gushing feeling, then you know your water broke. I laid back down because I was trying to go to bed, and I did not have that like gushing feeling again. So I just thought I probably just peed myself. It happens. I was 9 months pregnant. And so about 11 o'clock that night, I start my contractions started. I didn't know that they were contractions because everywhere online, everyone I've talked to, people say like contractions, they're your full bump. Um, they start off far apart and then they get closer together as you get closer to when you need to start pushing. Mine started very intense, very close together, and it was just localized underneath my bump. And so everything online was kind of telling me, oh, you're in a false labor. It's like extreme Braxton Hicks kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that went on all night. Because I just thought, well, this is just very intense Braxton Hicks. And my husband and I were just reading online that it could take hours for this false labor. And I was so close to my due date that things online were like, yeah, your body's just preparing for labor. And I remember in the middle of the night, I was praying to God, please just end this pain because I didn't think I was in labor and I just wanted to end because I was tired and just wanted to go to bed. That's all I cared about. At the same time, I was praying for it to end. My husband was praying to give us strength to get through this. So we had mindsets
Yeah.
because he was up with me all night, helping me, distracting me. I think we watched a movie, um, trying to keep my mind off of things. My mom was staying with us, and so she was asleep in our guest room. And I guess it was about a little before 5 a.m. on February 1st. We'd been up all night. My husband got me to bed. He was like, maybe if you're comfortable in your bed, you can go to sleep. Because that's all I cared about. I just wanted to go to sleep. I was just so tired. I'd been up
Yeah.
all day and now I was laboring without knowing it. And that was my point. I hit the point of like, I can't keep dealing with these um Braxton Hicks. Oh, sorry, I just started you. And so my husband went and grabbed my mom. My mom came in, and I remember her like kneeling down by the bed and asking me, "Do you need to go to the hospital? That's only you can answer that." And I was thinking, let's just go to the hospital. They can give me some pain meds. I can sleep for a little bit, get some relief, and hopefully the pain meds will just stop these contractions or this false contraction.
Yeah.
And so my mom was smart enough because she had a bit more sleep than the rest of us to grab my hospital bag because her thought was, at least it's in the car. If you end up staying, you have it. If not, it's in the car. So the hospital was about 40 to 45 minutes away from us. We get there around 6, get triaged, and they measure me, and I'm about 4 centimeters dilated.
Wow.
And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, I'm a little bit dilated. I'm still in denial that I'm in labor because I'm just thinking, oh, well, I'm just slowly dilating. And then within like 45 minutes to an hour, I went from 4 centimeters to 8 centimeters dilated. And so, because it was early morning, they did shift change. And so the day shift nurse, who was going to be my main nurse for the day, came in, measured me, and she was like, okay, we're going to go get you to your room. And that was when it really was hitting, oh, wow, I'm actually in labor. This
Wow.
isn't a joke.
And that's when you
This
were at
isn't fake.
4 or 8.
I went from 4 centimeters to 8 centimeters. So when they took me to my room, I was 8 centimeters.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. And I was asking because my plan was for an epidural. I wanted pain meds, but because I dilated so quickly, um, they couldn't give me pain meds because there's a process of making sure I had enough fluids, all the lab work. And if you've gone through labor, you understand that there's a process. It's not a let me ask for this epidural and they can immediately give it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, since I dilated so quickly, they didn't have the time and for it.
So they basically
Uh,
were like, yeah, you're gonna have to do this thing naturally. Like,
yeah, because by the time they got me to the room and settled, um, like I was probably in the room for maybe an hour or so before I started pushing. And so I was kind of like too far along and I was dilating too quickly
yeah.
for them to really be able to even give me anything. Because if they gave me even like Tylenol, the Tylenol wouldn't even scratch the surface. And so anything that they gave me, how it was explained to me in my understanding, it would pass on to Esther. And so then she may have problems when she was born. And so I really couldn't get anything. And so about I guess 8:30ish, I started pushing and I pushed for about an hour, hour and a half ish.
Wow.
Uh, and then right after 10 a.m., Esther came. And I had like a lot of bleeding. Um, so this is like the God work. My hemoglobin levels were elevated. So like the hemoglobin is what distributes like a lot of your oxygen and stuff like that in your blood. And so they were elevated when I came in. And so as much blood as I lost, they almost had to give me a blood transfusion,
Mm-hmm.
but my hemoglobin levels stayed high enough that they didn't have to. But it just meant after I gave birth and delivered Esther, delivered the placenta and all of that, they were able then to give me a shot of pain meds. Um, but I was just like really weak afterwards,
Yeah.
and it's to give my strength back.
Yeah. I mean, was it like how painful, if you could describe having the births naturally, like, was it crazy painful?
I think, yeah, I remember it being really painful, and during the pushing process, and a lot of women will describe this, you get to a point where you feel like you just can't keep doing it. And I just was like, I can't keep doing it, but you have to. If you're pushing, you don't have a choice. That baby's
Yeah.
coming. Um, but I remember feeling like it was taking forever. Like it was, I pushed for like an hour, hour and a half, but it felt forever. And I
Yeah.
remember being in a lot of pain. And I remember like my mom, she was there, and my husband Caleb, and they just kept like saying they can see the head. I'm almost there. But the like waiting for the head to come was like the longest part.
Yeah.
Um, not to go into detail, gross details about that, but like I remember there's points like it it was just really hard. And by the time I was pushing, I've been up all night. I was up all day the day before. So all I wanted was Esther to come out so I can go to sleep. That's all I cared about. And so I remember it being really painful. And like I'm hoping next kid I'll be able to get an epidural.
Yeah.
Um, but there is a point also after I was like, I can't keep doing this, and my mom and Caleb being like, Carly, you don't have a choice. I was like, Caleb, tell me a story. Tell me anything. Like, I just needed my mind off of the pain.
Yeah.
And because, like, the other thing was because I was bleeding so much, like, I had like tears internally. And so the doctor was having to also apply pressure to keep me from bleeding
Wow.
out. And so, like, normally when between like you're pushing, you kind of get a break. I didn't from the pain because they were applying pressure to keep me from bleeding out.
Yeah.
But I was like, Caleb, tell me a story. And Caleb went to Bible school. And so the Bible loving man he is, the Christian guy he is, he pulled a story from the Old Testament about one of the wicked kings. And between contractions, between me pushing, he just told this story.
Wow.
and and it gave me enough distraction for me to keep going.
That
But
is awesome.
yeah, but it was painful, but it's one of those things that I can't even describe the pain. And
Yeah.
you get done, and it's like it's all over.
Yeah. Yeah, that is like that's so cool, Carly. I loved that he shared that story with you. That's awesome. Um, yeah, I just have a lot of respect. There's a few women at the church that we go to that have had their babies naturally, and I just have so much respect for any woman who does have their baby completely naturally, no medication, because if you watch videos, you can look up videos on YouTube, but like they get to, I think it's called the ring of fire, my mom says, when like the head is like a coming or about to come, and it is like it just feels like it's burning down there, like it's just so painful, and which is why they call it the ring of fire. That is like one of the worst parts, and I remember watching before we went to our induction, or is that, did I say that right? Before we went
Yeah, your
for me to get
induction.
induced, um, we watched some birthing videos on YouTube, and I do highly recommend that, especially like for me, I had a spouse who, when it comes to like blood or anything, gosh, anything like cutting your stomach open or just like anything like that, he like it grosses him out. He can't handle it. He's gonna throw up, like his stomach starts hurting. So we kind of knew we needed to prepare him before, so that way he didn't like pass out while I'm trying to deliver Riley. But yeah, that's just so y'all be sure to look up like birthing videos before you actually go give birth because it's motivating and then it also like helps you understand what's going to go on when you actually give birth. Um,
Yeah. Or at least
or,
go through like a birthing class because a
yes.
lot of hospitals will have birthing classes.
Yes,
Because I
yes.
find that also helpful.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so my birthing story was a little different. We Briley always measured big. So every appointment we went to, she would measure my stomach and she just always was measuring big. And so, but because she was my first baby and my doctor, I think by law or like the hospital policy, she had to wait until I was 39 weeks. And so when I was, I think, like 37, Briley was already 7.5 pounds at 37 weeks. And we still had 3 weeks to go. And by the end of your pregnancy, your baby really starts gaining weight. Like every week they're gaining a bunch of weight compared to before. And so she was like, hey, like I still wanted to birth naturally. She was like, if you want to birth naturally, we're gonna need to do an induction. Basically, what that is they schedule you to have your baby. And so I went in at night. I think it was like a Monday night or something. They give you medication, this medicine that's supposed to like start your birthing process. And something that I do want to say for new moms, because this is a new mom topic, so you might be pregnant or something. Like, I did not know this. I was so out of the loop. But when you are giving birth, like the whole birthing process is has different stages. So there's like active labor, there's inactive labor. It's not just, oh, I'm ready to push and like let me just push. I mean, Carly's happened very rapidly, but like that's why people are in labor for like over 24 hours because their body goes through these different stages of labor to actually like have the baby. And so they give you medicine to like start that. So your body's starting with contractions and starting to dilate and starting to do all that. And then in the morning, my doctor came in and I was, I think at like a 1, I was dilated at a 1. She said, we're gonna stick this balloon, it's called a balloon, up you. And basically what it does is they blow it up and it helps you dilate faster. And my contractions were not bad until when they stuck that balloon up there, it was not painful. I was expecting the pain to be way worse than it actually was, but when she blew that balloon up that was inside of me, after that, I could not get comfortable. Like my contractions would like go and then, there'd be like a couple seconds to minutes of no contraction and then it'd go and then like every single time there was a contraction, I just could not like sit a certain way or have a good mindset. Like it was so uncomfortable. It's one of the most uncomfortable things to ever experience in your life. Like it's serious. So Carly, like leading into to having your baby and like thinking about becoming a mom, was this like scary for you? Were you excited? Like what were some things that you were nervous about? And then what were some things that you were super excited about for this new journey?
So I was definitely like through my pregnancy, I was pretty chilled. And I think part of it is like I just had a lot going on and I just didn't keep my mind. I just didn't think about it, or didn't let myself think about becoming a mom, because if I dwelled too much on it, I would get anxious. It wasn't until like I hit the new year and I was going into like my ninth month or the last month that I was like, the anxiety was really building up, and it was like feeling like it felt real. I As you get bigger, like it does feel real, but it was just like really hitting me that wow, I'm going to be in charge of this human being who's going to rely on me. And so that really made me nervous and anxious because I was like, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to mess my kid up. So that was that part. And it's still like there's still anxiety because there's still like a lot that could go wrong. And if
Yeah.
you and it's hard not to dwell on everything that can go wrong. That's the easy part. The hard part is not thinking about and looking at all of the good stuff about being a mom. But I know, like, leading up, the thing I was excited about is I just wanted to see, like, I was ready to see her personality come, who she was going to look more like, what traits she'll have for me, what traits she has for my husband.
Yeah.
Like, that was what I was excited about. And it's fun, like, during like ultrasounds, like seeing her little personality. And I think the fun thing of like from the ultrasound to things she does now, it's like there's still certain things she does. She still like during the ultrasound, she has her hands in her face. She was playing with her hair. She was not cooperative, and she still likes to have her hands in her face. She has her hands up. It's just like little things. It's just so interesting to see. But I think that was something that I was excited for through the pregnancy, was just seeing who this little human being was going to be.
Yeah, that's so good. I know so Briley is a little over 7 months and just like her personality starting to come out. You can really see like who kind of she is, if that makes sense. And that's really cool. That's always made me excited. I love watching her, like as her mom. Like I love like she is so curious. Like she pays attention to detail. I mean, she'll like grab something and look at it and she's just so fascinated by it. And she's my first, so I don't know if that's normal for babies, but I feel like she's so detail oriented, like Briston, and just is so curious. My mom says I was a very curious baby, so I can see these different traits of like, oh, you probably got that from your dad, and you probably got that from me, and like different stuff. Um, but yeah, definitely when you know you're pregnant and you know that you're like about to become a mom in this new role, but whenever I was laying in the C-section, so I didn't finish the birthing story, but just a super fast summary. Um, we I started dilating really good, and then my I started getting a fever. My water broke. We recognized that it was brown, and there's a term for it, but basically Briley had pooped in the womb, and that's very dangerous because you can get, as the mom, you can get an infection and die. She can get an infection and die. I mean, back in the day, I'm sure so many women and babies died because of just little things like that. Now they have antibiotics. So when I started getting a fever and Briley's heart rate dropped, they were like, hey, like for the safety of y'all, we need to have a C-section. And I will say, just as a recommendation, like, yes, you need to go in with a birth plan, but you also need to be flexible enough that if the doctors are like, hey, we need to do a C-section or we need to adjust here, that you're willing to do it. Because had I have still tried to birth her naturally, she was so big that it could have been really bad for both of us. They probably would have had to have done an emergency C-section. So we ended up having a C-section and I'm laying on the table, my stomach's open, I can't see anything. And like, that's when it finally clicked of like, oh my gosh, I'm taking on this responsibility of taking this child, and taking care of this child. And it was beautiful. But I'm gonna be honest, Carly, I feel like as I've been with her, I've started loving her more than when she was first born. When she was first born, I don't know if I was just so much in shock or like hormonal or just like had so much going on. Um, but like I don't feel like I was as like attached or loving towards her as I am as I was like a month after and as I am now. Like it's just crazy how I would hear people say, "Oh, it's this love that you can't ever experience except for through kids." And like I never understood that until I had a child and then taking care of them and like seeing them laugh. Like y'all, I mean, I don't know if Esther's old enough to laugh yet, but like when Briley,
She laughs, she
she
giggles,
does.
she blows raspberries.
She does, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's so it just makes your heart so happy when you hear your baby laugh and stuff. And so what you've had her for what's this month? May. So March, April, May. So about 3 months. Um you've been a new mom. And what are some, because we're both Christian. So I want to kind of go into what are some things that you feel like culture like promotes and advertises and preaches that kind of goes against. And if you need me to go first because she's a little fussy, that's okay. Um, but that is kind of against like what we're called to as Christians walk in with motherhood. And I will give an example. I feel like one thing that's really preached in the world is that motherhood is a burden. It is like children are a burden. Um, if you're a stay-at-home mom, like you're like a traditionalist, and I feel like it's very looked down upon, if you don't have these ambitious career goals that you're pursuing all the time. And as much as those are important, C.S. Lewis even says like the most important ministry is children because they are the future generations. They're going to be the ones to lead the world eventually. And so for me, I've just really come to the realization that the devil, Satan, likes to attack the family unit, and it's no wonder that he is attacking our mindset towards parenting and motherhood and having kids because he knows that raising a child in the faith and doing what God calls us to do, be fruitful and multiply, is such a good and godly thing that if he can stop it, I feel like he is accomplishing his goal and just making us more selfish. Because being a parent, and I'm sure, Carly, you understand this, being a parent has been like the most humbling experience I've ever had in my life. You have to deny yourself. Like every day you deny yourself, and you to take care of this child. And you know, I don't know, people say like, well, I don't want to have kids yet, or it's gonna tie me down, or like all this stuff. And yeah, your life's gonna be different. But what Brista and I have found out is like, you just take your kids with you. Like you just
Yeah.
figure it out. Like working out. Yeah, I have to pack the pack and play to go to the gym, or I have to push a stroller in order to run. But like, I can still accomplish my goals. It's just gonna look like you're going on a mission trip. Like it's just gonna look a little different. And you might spend money a little different, or your activities might be a little different. But I think this mindset of like, well, I'm gonna wait to have kids, or I'm gonna, like, I'm gonna do this first and then I'm gonna be tied down. No, you're not gonna be tied down. And kids are not a burden at all. They bring so much joy to your life. What are your thoughts about like the world viewing motherhood versus Christians, and how are they different? And, what advice do you give to Christian new moms or a Christian wife who wants to be a mom?
Learn to adapt. I feel like you as a mom, as a woman, as a wife, you deserve to have things you're interested in. You deserve to have hobbies, activities, things you like to do, but it may just look different as a mother. You have to learn to adapt. You also have to give yourself grace and patience. Um, so for me, I love to run, I love to write, as kind of mentioned earlier. And Esther is not old enough for to go running with me. Your baby has to have good head control before you can push them in the stroller to go run. And so something I've had to do, I'm lucky enough I have a great community. And so I run 2 days a week, and um I have someone watch Esther for the 45 minutes it takes me to go for my run.
Yeah.
And I'm in a mom's workout group, which is great because they all understand. And so I get to work out and I take Esther with me. And there's some days where I can do the full workout and she's fine. There's other days where I end up having to stop because she just is fussy and wants to be held. But you just have to learn to adapt with those hobbies. But your life, like it does center around your child, but it doesn't mean your life stops. And I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's the biggest thing. Like I think the secular world makes it sound like, oh, once you become a mother, your life stops and all you can do is be a mother. But a mother's just another title, another identity. There's still a whole lot to you as a woman, and it's important to find that balance between being a mother and then having your own hobbies and having other interests that is outside of just being a mom.
yeah, that's so good. I love that. I've heard this from multiple new moms that you kind of said, like, being a mom is just a title. It's not your whole identity. It's just a responsibility that you're doing for that season. When I didn't think I would struggle with this, but when I became a mom, I went really from working to staying at home, which was a big transition. And then on top of that, you're having a baby that's dependent on you, which is another big transition. So your body's kind of going through shock with all the transitions. And for a season, like a period of time, I felt so purposeless. Like, I felt like I'm just here in our camper, in our apartment. I'm taking care of this child. Community is so important because you feel isolated. I felt lonely. I felt like, I'm here taking care and I love her and I love being a stay-at-home mom, but that transition was just a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And that went for a period of time, I just felt so purposeless because the thing that I loved, like writing, got totally put on the back burner. I don't do much of it right now with having to help with my husband's business and taking care of her. Um, and so I just, I want to kind of hit on that of, did you experience a period of time where you felt purposeless or maybe lonely? And then how have you kind of like navigated that journey? Because for me personally, I had to reach out to people. Like I had to find people, and where we live, we don't have any family. So we live in East Texas, and our closest family is an hour away. And so it's not like I could just call my mom and say, "Hey, can you come over?" I'm like, or "Hey, and we moved here. We're still trying to find close friends. It's not like I got all of these really close friends that we just hang out with, all the time like it was in college. It's totally different. And so when my husband's going to work and I'm staying here, like I really had to not sit in I didn't have what's it called that depression. I didn't have like
Postpartum depression.
Yes, I didn't have postpartum depression, but I definitely hit a season of feeling very lonely, feeling purposeless, like what am I even doing? And I think that feeling purposeless, I felt so bad feeling purposeless because I'm like, I'm raising this child, like, and I love her, and I don't want her to think that I don't and that she's not valuable. But I think in our culture, because of like how we're raised and what's like preached out, is like children are a burden. So it's like, well, I can't have fulfilling purpose in being a mom. I have to have fulfilling purpose in like doing all these other things and pursuing all these career goals. And those are good. And like I think you should have career goals. Like Carly said, like it's a balance. But I think just like hearing that really made me see motherhood as not as valuable as it actually is. So I don't know if you want to add anything on.
Yeah. I definitely felt that. Like you are definitely not alone. Um, Motherhood, like especially, I feel like that first transition, because I mean, Esther's 3 months old, so she's still considered a newborn. Um, but it's like, especially once like I also do not live close to my family. My my side of the family lives like 17 hours away. I live in Florida over on the Space Coast. My family lives in Houston, Texas. My husband's family, his parents live up in northern Kentucky. And so they're like 15 hours away. So, like, family is not close. And so, like, they all came to visit in February after Esther was born. But then it was like once they left, and you just have this child, it does get lonely. And like especially for me at nights it was the loneliness. The low because it's like my husband was asleep and it's just me and the baby. And there's no point in having him awake for him just to stare at me when he has to go to work tomorrow the next day. But for me, what helped with like the loneliness and I think that's like when the devil can really enter in and tell you stuff that isn't true and tell you, oh, you're by yourself, you're alone. Something that's helped me um, is one, trying to find that community. I'm blessed that where I live, so Carly mentioned I work for this organization called Teen Missions International. A little history back in 1970, they bought a bunch of land and they have a full, they own like 90% of lots. And so we live in
Wow.
housing on the street and along with the majority of the staff. And so I have other moms on the street that I can reach out to if I need help. And like we meet one Friday a month, like the last Friday of the month, for a couple hours just to sit and just talk. But I know I have those resources and they are very helpful. And then it's like I joined this like it's called Fit for Moms, but it's
Hmm.
a workout group for moms. And so just being around other moms also helps. But also I found, especially in the early stages, I think I would make like a video and I would just post it about it was just like me being real. And like sometimes and people would comment who I was Facebook friends with and be like, oh, I feel the same way. Or yeah, I struggled with that as a new mom. This is what helped me. Um, and so like I think the biggest thing is to know you are not alone. No matter how alone you feel, you're not by yourself.
Yeah.
Like you may feel by like you're the only person awake at that time, but I bet you there's other moms around the world who are also awake at that time in the middle of the night doing midnight feedings. But I think it's just the biggest thing is to know you're not alone and you just need to find that community who you can lean on, who you can find, whether it's a mom's group at church or people at work, things like that. You just have to find that community and help them build you up.
Yeah, that is so good. Yeah, right now our pastor is doing a sermon series on spiritual warfare, and one of the things he talks about is like the devil's going to try to get you alone. Because if you ever look at like animals and like a lion chasing a group of deer, the lion always goes after the one that's alone. And so when you're going through this change, like don't isolate yourself. And I think this is a good call to action for organizations, churches, ministries, that if you have moms, new moms, in your congregation or organization, like it's really important to have a community space for that. I've actually really been thinking about that, Carly, fit for mom. Really been thinking there's a lot of moms at our church, and I have been thinking about, well, it'd be cool to have like a specific workout group where it's fellowship and working out, but like you're doing it together, and it's accountability, but it's also like community of we're here and stuff. And yeah, so I think my biggest encouragement for new moms is definitely look in your area, like where you're going to church and where you work and the people around you, and just like find people, find women, find new moms to pour into you and to encourage you. Um, because that has been like the biggest difference in my lonely season versus now. And I'll end with this, but I still am navigating my purpose. Like I'm still navigating. I still am tempted to retract back and think, oh, well, I don't have purpose. Like my husband's doing all these great things and I'm just a mom, right? Like and it's like, no, like there's so much value. There's so much, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like, it's so honoring to be a mom. And it's
Yeah.
like, we seriously, there's so many women out there that would love and desire to have their own kids and to like get pregnant. And it's like one of our core values on here is, servanthood, stories, and stewardship. And it's like being a mom requires you to be a servant to your child and to your family. And it also requires you to steward that responsibility of raising that child well. And I always have to remind myself, we got pregnant pretty easy. And there are women out there who would love to get pregnant and that are trying everything that they can to be a mom. And whether it's having your own kid or adoption or just even being a spiritual mom, like motherhood isn't just birthing your own child, but it's like always remembering like there are people who wish they were where you're at right now. Like I I sometimes get in my head of like, oh my gosh, I have these friends who are accomplishing all these career goals. And it's like, Carly, you're a stay-at-home mom. You know how many women wish that they were in your position to like be a stay-at-home mom? I get to work out like at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. I get to like make my own schedule throughout my day. And I still work for my husband, and that ain't even in of itself getting to work from home. Like be thankful for the blessings that God has given you. I don't know if you want to add anything, Carly, but before we end, I do want to ask, like, are you nervous about going overseas with your baby? And like, what are you doing? And like, how are you like, I would be nervous. Like, how are you like going into this missions with mindset?
So for me, like right now, I think the most nerve-wracking thing is just the airport travel. So we're planning, as of right now, we're supposed to go to Australia. And so we leave um from Orlando, and I think right now we're supposed to go like to LAX to Brisbane. And so it's just a lot of flying. And I've flown with Esther already. I flew home in March when she was like 6 weeks old, and she did wonderful on the plane. But it's just a long couple days because like even the flight from LAX to Brisbane is like 12 plus hours. I don't know how much on top of my head. But so that's the part that's most nerve-wracking to me. And like we're waiting for her passport to come in, which was a journey in itself getting that passport photo. But um it's for me, there's a part that I'm nervous about, but at the same time, like I also have a lot of flexibility because this summer, because she's my first baby, under like team missions policy, I'm not going as like a leader for the mission trip. I'm going kind of as a family member, which gives me the flexibility to focus. My focus is on being Esther's mom,
Yeah.
and secondary is um like pouring into the team members, the teenagers who are going on this mission trip. And so there's other like adults who their primary focus and my husband's primary focus is being leaders to the teenagers going.
Yeah.
And so that part to me is a comfort because I don't have to balance I have my team responsibilities, but I also have my mom responsibilities. And so it's mom first and then kind of the team. And so I also know at the end of the day, I'm not the first mom to do this. There's a bunch of other moms going this summer with kids. And I just trust God that everything will be all right. It'll work out.
That's
You
good.
just gotta be one of our sayings at Team Missions is you have to be fluid and flexible.
You do as a mom.
Yeah. But something I did one point, just like input about um just something that I've also been thinking about. It's also, and this kind of ties into your talk about like purpose. It's also okay to take a break from your kids.
That's
Like, it's
yeah.
okay. And I feel like a lot of, especially as stay-at-home moms, like, there's this idea that it's, you're a bad mom if you want to like leave your kids somewhere, like, or with someone. Don't just like dump them somewhere, but leave them with someone. It's okay. I mean, Esther's 3 months old, and one of the staff kids, Claire, she's 14 or 15, 2 hours during the week, she watches Esther so I can go into the office and get some stuff done to help out with the summer. I was getting cabin fever and I just was like, I need to get out. Now, something I found purpose in is serving God by going back and helping at the office. And that's been really good for me, especially my mental health and everything. And it makes me a better mom because I'm able to get that step away. And it doesn't mean I'm a bad mom. So that's another thing is just it's okay to step away from your kid. It's okay to like leave your child with someone you can trust to watch her or him.
No, I love that. Well, thanks, Carly. Thanks for being a guest. And this was great.